voice, well, if you don't speak loud enough, it's not going to pick it up. And I know you are so speaking person. Anyway, speak as loudly as you can. Now, I will be asking the questions, but I'm asking Carolyn, since she does a lot of this and has been doing it for years. She and her mother have served on the Historic Preservation Board, and that's where I met her mother, and she is a staunch historian here in Delray Beach. So she will probably have some insights or some questions also. So let's start by saying your name is?
Maynie.
How you spell that?
M-A-Y-N-I-E.
M-A-Y-N-I-E. And your last name?
Boles. B-O-L-E-S.
Okay, what is your early remembrance of living in that house? First, let me ask you, Mrs. Atkins was your aunt, you said?
My aunt.
Your mother's sister?
My mother's sister.
Okay. What's your early memories of living in that house?
Well, my aunt brought me down from Havana in 1925. And I was 5 years old then. And at that time, I should have brought the other picture of the other house that we first lived in. But anyway, the first house we lived in was a rather small house. Had 2 bedrooms, a huge living room and dining room and kitchen.
Was that house on the location of?
On the same location where this one is.
What happened to that house?
Well, my aunt and her husband tore that house down and decided they needed a larger house. And that was when they built this house that's there now. And it has 3 bedrooms, bath, kitchen, living room, and dining room, back porch, and a front porch to that. And I can remember, I don't know why, but in the back bedroom, I was always afraid in that room. I called him Daddy, her husband, but he had his mother's hair in that room. She had passed, and it frightened me to see it back there. So,
excuse me, was it a wig or?
No, it was her real hair. And they cut some of it. She had a lot of hair, and they cut some of it off. And they gave Daddy that part to bring back with him when she passed. And, but anyway, both of them was they loved to fish. And they did a lot of fishing. They had a farm. And then we had plenty of fruit in the yard, all kinds of fruits. Lemons, grapefruits, oranges, cherries, all papayas, any kind of fruit that you can mention. And she did a lot of entertaining when the maids and the chauffeurs would come down. She would have them over for dinner or lunch, and they would sit out in the front yard and talk and have fun. Of course, I wasn't allowed to be out with them.
What year are we talking about now?
Well, this was in, I would say, in the late 30s and early 40s.
When you built the new house?
The new house, let's see, when they started building that house. He died in 1936, and they had started building the house because they hadn't completed it. They had started, I guess it was between 35 and 36 they had started building the house. And
when do you think it was finished? Because they have 1940 here, but it might be earlier.
I don't remember exactly when it was finished, but I imagine it was finished in the early 40s.
Okay.
So.
Did they have children?
She had 8 children, and all of them passed when they were babies.
Oh my God.
And some she she lost before they were born. She had 7 boys and 1 girl. And that was when she asked my mother if she could have me. So my grandmother said, yes, please come and get her. So.
Okay, so you were reared as an only child.
Yes.
Okay, tell me a little bit about her, what she did for a living.
She was, she worked for at the Green Hen. Well, first of all, I'm sorry, she worked for Macy's Real Estate, opening houses, and in the winter when the people was coming down, she and my mother would open these houses, clean them and whatnot. And then later on, she started working at the Green Hen I think it was on Atlantic Avenue, downtown.
What was that?
It was like a small, I would call it a restaurant, but they had friends that they served dinner to, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And sometime after school, I would go down and help serve. They were, it was 2 ladies, and they had never been married, and they entertained quite a bit at that house, and my aunt worked for them.
Do you remember their names?
No, I don't. I really don't remember their names.
I guess the Green Hen, I guess the building's not there anymore. Or
Pardon?
is the building still there where the Green Hen was?
Oh, I don't know if it is or not.
Tell me what you enjoyed most about living in Delray as a child.
Oh, I enjoyed playing baseball and going to pick huckleberries with my friends and playing different games with Hattie Ruth, Alma, and Elizabeth and Geraldine. We would go to each other's house. And of course, I think I had the most toys, but I was, I guess, a little selfish. I didn't want them to play with them. But when they would come, and I had a musical chair, and we all would sit in that chair for a while and listen to the music. But I enjoyed, my aunt was very good to me, and I enjoyed the way she was very strict. But later on in life, I appreciate all the things that she taught me and how she brought me up.
Did you all have an automobile or car?
Yes, she had I don't know the name of this car, but at that time they called them rumba seats, I think. It was, yes, she had one of those. I believe it was a Buick, I believe. But they did have, and then they had a Ford before they had that car. And we used to go fishing in the Ford out on the canals and have picnics and whatnot.
What are some of the other unusual foods you had growing up here?
Well, we had, they would have tomatoes, okra, corn, and greens. And as desserts, my aunt loved making pound cakes, and she made the best house rolls, and she was a very good cook. We always had plenty of food. I don't remember ever not having plenty of food.
You said they had a farm. Was that somewhere else?
It was out west.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what were the most important community institutions in the African American section of Delray back then?
I think it was the churches that was the most important.
Which one did you attend?
St. Paul and Methodist.
And you're still a member of that too?
Yes.
Even though they have one in Boynton, you're a member of the one in
Delray, yes.
When you graduated high school, you went away, right?
Yes, I got married, and then my husband and I, we first went to Atlanta, Georgia, and we stayed there a while, and then we went to Nashville, Tennessee, and then to Lafayette, Indiana, and he was inducted then. So I got a job working at the hospital, and later on I came back to Delray, and he was in the army, and he was stationed up at West Point. So then I got ill, but after I was better, I went up there and I lived in with these people that I was working for, so I could be near. And then later on, I moved to the city, and there was where I started getting a job working.
And you never had children?
Never had any children.
Okay. What were the most other important holidays when you were growing up here in Delray?
The 20th of May, the 4th of July, Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter. So.
What was May 20th?
And when we, I'm sorry. And I was going to mention, I don't know if this is important, but when I was going to school, every year the children did something, planting the maypole. We did that.
That was May 20th?
I don't know what day. It was in May when we did it, but I don't remember what date it was.
Where did you do that? Was it at your house? Or
No, it was out at Carver, out on the lawn we all had ribbons the same color of our dresses. They were little organdy dresses that our parents made for us. And
for that special occasion?
For that special occasion, yes.
Would you say that was the most important or the most memorable activity?
Yes, I would.
Okay. What are some important city events that occurred?
Well, although I wasn't active in any of them, but it was basketball, football, and going to the beach. We would all walk to the beach. Our parents or grandparents would take us to the beach, and having picnics on the beach at that time. You could go over there and have picnics on the beach. And
what part of the beach are we talking about?
We were right there in front of the, what's the name of that restaurant?
Boston's?
Yes.
Because when I was a little girl, my parents rented our house and we lived in an apartment that looked over the beach there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the big protest. That made a big impression on me when I was a little girl. There was a big protest in the pavilion. So
I think
that was she has reference to before that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had left when they had the protests I wasn't here.
You were probably with your husband in the
Yes, in
service.
New
That
York.
was during the 50s.
Right, because I was born in 53. So the protest was to use the whole beach, not just one.
African Americans
Right.
to use the beach, period.
Yeah. Yes.
So later on, when the tourists came down and they decided that they didn't want to live next to this one and that one and that, and then they didn't want to swim with them.
Yes.
And so that's when they assigned African Americans a spot down near Boca Raton that's called Jap Rock. And that's where we had to go to swim. But before that time, I mean, we were just like the Southerns.
This one was from Oklahoma, and he had never seen anyone boil clothes. He said, "Oh, you all cook the clothes down here?" Oh,
My mother still boils her tea towels on the stove. Yeah.
well, you know, sometimes I think white things don't come as white as they used to when we were boiling the clothes, you know. Because I look at some of my linen and I said, God, they just don't look real white anymore, you know. So.
Okay, you have any other memories of growing up in Delray?
The Colony Hotel, when I was 16 years old, the lady over there, she had seen me over at the Green Hen, and she asked if I could come over and work for her. So it was after school. All she wanted me to do was fry chicken, and she'd have a salad, and she had a music box. I'd sit out there on the porch and listen to music and watch the cars go by, and I'd fry this chicken and make this salad. Her husband was in the service, and she was really having a good time while he was away. But I worked for her, I guess, about 3 or 4 months, and then I left. So.
And that was work.
Yes.
Frying chicken and watching the cars go by.
Right.
Was that Mrs. Banta?
Was it in the book?
What was her name, the lady at the couple? Was it Maud Banta?
You know, I don't even remember her name. But
Just wondered.
yes.
But that porch, that colony porch, boy, that is an iconic
Yes.
symbol of Delray. I've been out there sitting. Yeah.
Okay, what did you say you were born?
Havana, Florida.
Havana, so you're a Floridian. You're one of the few Floridians.
Yes. Helen Condrey, we were all born there in Havana. One year when I came back to Florida, she and her husband took me to Havana to see the spot where I was born. The house was gone, but the land, you know, nobody had built a house there. So.
I've been working on the Franklin House, and we have a plan now to save it and redo it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember any of the kids from over there? From the Franklin,
This is
120.
This is where you are, and this is your house, and the Franklin house is up in here. You know Bill Franklin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, his children was Helen and Mildred, Suzette, what is that child?
But were you around when they were born, Bill, Suzette?
Suzette, no. I came down here after she was born. But now, Helen and Mildred, the three of us used to play together when they were living there, when they'd come down to be with their father, you know. So, but Suzette and Lisa, they came after I had moved away.
So you played over there in the house?
Yes.
Oh, that's a big house. It's 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
It was built in 1921. We have here.
Yeah. 21?
Let me see. Yeah, they have 21 on this map. And I had 1924 in my records.
Well, they brought me down in 25, and the first house was built. So maybe it was in 21. I don't know how long they had been here.
Do you have memories of, what are your memories of playing over at the Franklin house with Helen and Mildred?
Well, as kids, we used to love to play baseball and croquet, was that it?
In their yard over there?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
And over at where Annie Youngblood's parents' house, we used to go over there, Mr. John Jackson, and play croquet. What is it, croquet or croquet? We'd go over and play with them sometime. And we loved riding bicycles because you didn't have a lot of traffic, hardly have any traffic, so you didn't have to worry about riding your bicycle.
Do you remember anything about the interior of the Franklin house? What it looked like in there?
I can tell you about the rooms. I think it was 2 bedrooms, a bath, a breakfast room, a kitchen, and a living room and front porch and back porch.
Mm-hmm. They had a lot of furniture?
Yeah, they had nice furniture in the house, yes. And of course, Bill, he worked at the tap room. So, and he and his mother was excellent cooks. They both were good cooks. So, but Bill, he didn't cook at the tap room. He was the, what do you call it? The maitre d'?
Maitre d'?
Yes, that's what he was.
Because, now, Bill actually is the one who built the house. Is that right?
Bill Franklin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he built that house.
And they had in the paper that he was a farmer.
Farmer?
Yeah, I think that was wrong. He was the maitre d'.
Bill was not a farmer.
Right. So he was the maitre d' at the tap room. And evidently he used to let people stay with him.
Yeah.
Prior to the hotel.
He entertained a lot. The people who would come down and friends of his in West Palm, they did a lot of entertaining at his home.
Right. Because Vera was saying that your aunt, Mrs. Atkins, and Bill Franklin, and the one other person whose house has been torn down, you said were the 3 houses that really entertained people and had people over. Am I right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of that third house. I know the Atkins house.
And
The Franklin house.
And also Charlie Patrick and those, they entertained a lot.
Well, I was trying to get information from the 30s, the 20s and 30s. They came, Franklin came in the 40s, 45, 46, when the LaFrance Hotel was built.
Patrick, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But so I was trying to get information about Delray prior to that time. Yes, Miss Atkins did, and so did Mr. Robinson. They used to call him Bro Rob.
Right.
The school teachers who came here did not have any place to live. They lived with their aunt or lived with Mr. Robinson or lived with Bill Franklin until they became established.
Right.
Okay. I think Charlie built his hotel in the 1945, 48,
Yes,
45,
so.
something like that. Because I was away in college when they...
And I'm trying to think if I I was in and out of Delray at the time he was building the hotel. But you said something about a third house entertaining?
Well, Mr. Robinson, Mrs. Atkins, and Bill Franklin. Is that right?
Yes. I don't know much about Mr. Robinson entertaining, but I do know Bill Franklin and my aunt, because Mr. Robinson lived down from us, so I don't know about. I know it was a very quiet home, you know.
But Mr. Franklin and your aunt were both very outgoing.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Well, Bill Franklin taught my aunt how to drive.
Oh.
Yes.
He might have taught a lot of people how to drive.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to tell us?
I can't think of anything else offhand.
Well, this has been fascinating. Thanks for letting me come.
Okay, well, thank you for your input, and I'm going to, of course, write this up, type it up, and I will give you a copy of it for you, to make corrections and additions. If you could think of anything else,
yes, I will.
Let us know.
I'll write it down, because if I try to remember, I'll forget.